readers, I'm Amy and I'm your nonfiction feminist. Today I'm talking about my TBR for the Mental Health-athon. This is a readathon that was created by Nicole from over at A Beautiful Chaos of Books. Her co-hosts will be Rachel, Marie, and Kate. I will link all three of those amazing people down below. You can also follow the Mental Health-athon on Twitter and Instagram. Nicole has all of that information over on her channel. You can also use the search box above to find more videos on the Mental Health-athon if you want to check out more books for this. The Mental Health-athon is a month-long readathon from May 1st to May 31st, and we're focusing on mental health. This is a project that is very close to my heart. As I've mentioned in some previous videos, I work at a treatment center for teens. We work with them about from the age of 10 to 17. Once they're 18, they age out. We deal with all sorts of stuff. We have borderline, bipolar, we have a lot of anxiety and depression, a lot of addiction. Every day is difficult, every day is an adventure and a learning experience, but these kids are so important to me and so close to my heart. And I love learning more about mental health, and it's allowed me to focus on my own mental health. I've really been able to take better care of myself and my anxiety in the last 8 months that I've been working with the kids one-on-one. I got to start taking medication, I go to therapy, I feel so much better about life, and yeah, that's kind of my story, so let's dive into this. The Mental Health-athon focuses on 15 different prompts. You of course do not have to read 15 books. Focus on your own mental health and don't overwhelm yourself with this readathon. You have a whole month to read as many or as few books as you want to or have time for. Here is the bingo board with the prompts. This was also created by Nicole and her co-hosts. So let's start with the group book. For the group book we have Sparrow. I think this is a book about a girl dealing with anxiety and depression. I think it's mostly depression. I decided to get this book when I saw it was group book because it looked really, really interesting. Mine is in the mail. Hopefully I will have it by next week so I can go ahead and get that started. Our next category is Own Voices. For this one, I will be rereading How to Grow an Addict by J.A. Wright. The author bio tells us that Wright herself is an addict and has been in recovery for about 30 years. And How to Grow an Addict was actually recommended to me by one of the kids at the treatment center. We were both sitting in the clinic. She was waiting for her appointment. I was waiting for my youth to have his appointment. And she's reading this book and she hands it over to me and says, "Hey, while you're waiting here, I want you to read the first chapter in this. I think you would like it." I read the first chapter. It was so fascinating. I got myself a copy immediately, and I'm really excited to dive back into this and give it a second glance. I loved it the first time. I'd love to reread it for this one. This book explores the life of a young girl. Her dad is an alcoholic, her mom is kind of absent, and she has a very toxic relationship with her brother. There is a trigger warning in this book for abuse. That's family abuse, drug abuse, animal abuse. It's not too heavy and it doesn't go into too much detail, but even the littlest thing can set someone off. So, like I said before, make sure to take care of yourself in this readathon and when choosing your books. Our next prompt is nonfiction, which I have a lot of books for this one that would fit for nonfiction because I'm focusing a lot on memoirs, but for nonfiction specifically, I have The Science of Evil. I have featured this book in a previous video. I have not read any more of it since making that video, so the Mental Health-athon will be a great excuse for me to finally finish this. I have about a chapter or two left. It's just kind of been sitting there. It's a good book, I just haven't gotten back to it, and that's fine. The Science of Evil is on empathy and the origins of cruelty. Simon Baron-Cohen, who's the author of this, talks more about empathy and how we define empathy and how it's on a spectrum like just about anything else. And he says that things like evil and cruelty are very subjective and not very easy to define because of that subjectivity, which is why he decides to focus on empathy. The Science of Evil focuses specifically on borderline personality disorder psychopaths, narcissists, and people with autism. This is largely focused on brain science. There's some questionnaires on the back if you want to see where you are on an empathy scale. The next prompt in the Mental Health-athon is anxiety. For anxiety, I will be listening to the audiobook for Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. I read her first book a couple of years ago. I think it came up on my Kindle as like a really cheap or free book at the time. I read it and it was so weird and so wonderful and hilarious, and I loved every minute of it. Really connected with it. I was known as the weird kid back when I was growing up in middle school and high school. I don't know what it was exactly that made me the weird kid, but that's just who I was known as. And because of that, I feel like I really connected with her first memoir. She's just got all these like oddball experiences, and it was so hilarious and so relatable, and I loved every minute of it. And I've been wanting to read her second book for a while now, and here's my excuse to read it. So cannot wait to dive into this. I just got it on the library app Libby, I think last night, so perfect timing for that. Then our next prompt is schizophrenia. For this one, I actually found a book through Literary Possibly, which I will also link down below. I saw at one point that she was reading The Collected Schizophrenias, and I thought about that book, and I figured, I'm going to get that book, I'm going to read it for Mental Health-athon, because it looks really cool, and again, it's an excuse to read something that I've had my eye on for a while, and just haven't gotten around to diving into yet. The Collected Schizophrenias, it's a little bit shiny, is by Esme something. I don't want to say it because I don't want to butcher her name, but it's basically a collection of essays on her life and dealing with schizophrenia. I think this is going to be really fascinating. I don't know much about schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not one of the mental illnesses that we really deal with too much at my treatment center. We're more focused on anxiety and depression, so I can't wait to learn more about it. These essays deal with presenting as high functioning, dealing with psychosis and misrepresentations, and I just can't wait to learn more about schizophrenia and read about someone's actual experience with it. It's not a topic that you hear about. It's not something that people write a ton of books about, or that there's a ton of material on out there outside of a psychology class. So I'm so excited for this. I think it's going to be amazing. I hope it's going to be amazing. I don't read a lot of essays, but fingers crossed that I will love this. I am not reading a book for OCD this month. For the intersectional prompt, Sparrow would also work for that, as it features a African-American main character. Bipolar and Host's Pick I also don't have. The next prompt is personality disorder. For this one, I am reading Girl Interrupted. I have not read the book, but I have seen the movie. I've been wanting to read this book for a couple of years. Again, it's another one that I just haven't gotten around to. And I also just got an email from the library last night saying that it is ready and waiting for me, so I'm hopefully going to pick that up tomorrow after work and get started on that. Girl Interrupted focuses on a woman who is living in a treatment center, and I find that really awesome as a perspective, because not only are we focusing on mental health books because it's harder to find, not a lot of people write about it, but I think books focused on people living in treatment centers and experiencing everyday life in treatment centers are even harder to find than other mental health books. Mental health books I find are usually focused on people's lives out there in the world. In How to Grow an Addict, it starts out with her being in therapy and then moves on to what her story is and how she got to the treatment center and the therapist, but you don't really look at life in the treatment center. And working in a treatment center, I think it's really important that we see more characters living in treatment centers. It's a tough life, but it's interesting. There are a lot of lessons to learn there, and I would love to see it in books more often. We also have a prompt for phobias, which I won't be doing this month. But for eating disorders, I have Hunger by Roxane Gay. This is my second reread for this month. I have read Hunger before. I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait to dive into it again. Roxane Gay is I think, the only author that I've ever come across where I have truly loved every single one of her essay books. Again, essays and short stories are also something that I really struggle with. So to have an author that I can rely on to make a essay that I am fully invested in, that's amazing. If you know anything about Roxane Gay, you'll know that not only is she an amazing feminist and writer, she is also a fat person. Her work, I will say, huge trigger warning for rape. She was gang raped whenever she was younger by a boyfriend and his friends, and that's where a lot of her story starts. She just starts eating and eating and eating, trying to get her weight up as a self-protection technique. This book really explores her problems with her weight and her PTSD and just dealing with what happened and getting through it day by day, doing what she can, and it's amazing. I highly recommend it. Again, take care of yourself during the mental health-athon. Don't read things that are going to trigger you, because that's not what this mental health-athon is about. Our next prompt is PTSD, which hunger will also work for, I think, so I don't have a book focusing on that one. The other category, I've chosen The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. This book is about a kid with autism. A neighbor's dog dies and he tries to investigate it. This book has been sitting on my TBR shelf for over a year, I think. It's a book that I'm always looking at and thinking, hey, I should totally read that. Once again, like so many other books in the mental health-athon, this is a readathon that gives me an excuse to dive into the books that I just haven't yet. And for our very last prompt, we have depression. For this, I've chosen Prozac Nation. I don't know a lot about this book. I know that it's a memoir dealing with drug addiction and depression in college. I also have not seen the movie for this yet. I'm probably going to watch that this month. It's one that I'm interested in. I also love Christina Ricci. I think she's brilliant. This is a memoir that I heard a lot about growing up, and again, it's just a book that I didn't really get around to. So that is my TBR for this month. I am focusing a lot on memoirs, but that's fine because I love memoirs. I think they're so interesting. I am so excited for this. I can't wait to tell the kids at work about this, and I hope you join all of us on learning more about mental health and reading the books on the topics. There are several youth in the lodge that I'm currently working in that are always asking about the books that I'm reading, that want to borrow the books that I'm reading. So if I get therapist approval, if I know that they're not going to be especially triggered by some of these books, I'll probably let them borrow them so that we can talk about it. We can talk about their mental health journeys, the journeys of the people in the books, and generally I think it's just going to be an amazing conversation starter for my friends, my family, my job. I can't wait to dive into this. This is so exciting. This is exactly what I need. Thank you so much, Nicole, for starting this readathon. I can't wait. That's it for this video. Please like, subscribe, and be my friend on the social media. I finally broke down and got a Twitter. I have 3 whole followers last I checked. So exciting! I'm not going to be on Twitter a ton. It is not my favorite media to use, but I do see a lot of people getting inspiration for their discussion videos on BookTube through Twitter, and I have a huge interest in doing some discussion videos myself. For May, I'm hoping to focus on mental health, to talk about some of my bullet journaling that's really helped me recently. This readathon is really just getting a lot of stuff started for me right now. It's exciting, it's awesome, and I can't wait for you all to join me on my journey in May. See you later!